Dr. Fisher adjusts his degree. He takes an elevator. He falls off the tower. The degree adjusts itself. Dr. James Martin drives into a prison. He is there to interview notorious serial killer Nefarious. He meets Warden Moss. He had to fill in after Dr. Fisher's incident. Nefarious is on death row. He's smart and trying to convince Dr. James he is insane so he can't be executed under state law. Warden Moss believes it's an act, but Dr. Fisher believed he was insane. He is given a walkie-talkie for anything he needs. Nefarious already knows who Dr. James is. He said he made Dr. Fisher commit suicide, and he said he isn't afraid of death. He starts randomly laughing. He says that James will commit 3 murders before he leaves. He explains that Nefarious is the demon controlling the body. The vessel's name is Edward. He explains that once Edward got a Ouija board he gave in to temptation, then they slowly gained control of him. Now they own him, and all the monsters below own him. He made Fisher jump off the hotel because they no longer need the vessel of Edward. They want him to go to hell. Dr. James calls in a chaplain. He says it would be scary if he wasn't an atheist. A light bulb shatters. Dr. Stewart, a priest, visits. He appreciates him for helping. He believes demonic possession isn't real and he leaves. James wants proof he is a demon. He lets him inhabit James, but nothing happens. Dr. James thinks he has multiple personality disorder. Nefarious lets Edward talk. He said he likes Fisher, but he didn't believe Nefarious was real. He says Nefarious makes him do things, then he gets punished for it. He says Nefarious killed the people, not him. Nefarious tells him euthanasia on his mother still counts as murder, so it is one of 3 already checked off the list. James swipes the things off the table, grabs the walkie-talkie, and decides not to take a break. James is made to choose if Nefarious is insane or not. If not, he will be executed that night. He said he brought James to write his manifesto about a demon. The irony. Nefarious says he is above people because the creator made them superior. He says he knows more theology than any human ever lived. They were angels and God made them do his bidding. If they stepped out of line, they were eternally condemned. He says God made the humans. The demons hurt God by destroying what he loves, the humans. James decides he is insane and can't morally say he isn't insane. Nefarious says that he could stop his girlfriend, Melanie, from having an abortion, but he won't. He confronts him about killing babies like in the olden times when they threw babies into the fires to sacrifice. He counts down and says it's done, counting 2 out of 3 murders. He rushes out to try to make the phone call to Melanie. He finds out she is in recovery, meaning the abortion already happened as Nefarious said so. Edward starts crying and asks for a cheeseburger and a chocolate shake, but Nefarious says he changes his mind and wants nothing. Dr. James is confused about how he would know. Warden gives him a smoke. Dr. James has 1 hour left to decide. Dr. James wants to know how Nefarious knew his girlfriend was having an abortion. He says he will sign off on his execution if he can tell his girlfriend was having an abortion. He finds out that the demon is with Dr. James when he can, but mostly with Edward. He finds out that he chose the electric chair because it probably won't work the first time. He will defecate, urinate, and eyes explode all at the same time. Edward tells him there is a way to save him. Nefarious takes over and breaks his finger. He puts it back though. He wants Dr. James to write the memoir of Nefarious. He says James already wrote the book. Nefarious offers James the ability to serve the demons, the witness to Edward's execution, and the apostle to Nefarious' return. For that, he will give James the world, the same deal he gave to the carpenter, but he turned it down. James is called out of the interrogation. The warden shows him a book of James's photos. He gives him another book, Memoir of Nefarious by Dr. James Martin. He decides to ask him one last question. He says he was studying him from when he was born. Nefarious cracks his fingers to get through the cuffs. He chokes James. He makes him beg for his life. Nefarious lets him live because they've built a bond. They tackle Nefarious. James signs on the execution of Nefarious, making the 3 out of 3 murders and counting. They take him away. Warden tells James to leave because it might be hard to watch, but he says he needs to see it through. Nefarious gets a haircut because he can be a resistor. Dr. James comes to watch the execution. Nefarious gets to read the warrant for his execution. Detective John Russo thanks Dr. James Martin because they chased him for 6 years. They take Nefarious out of the cell. They take him to his execution. They strap him to his chair, and his last words is ask if James accepts. He declines the offer. offer. They electrocute him. They electrocute him a second time. He is dead. He gets possessed by Nefarious, and he grabs the detective's gun and starts pointing it at people. He tries to shoot himself, but they stop him. 1 year later, Dr. James goes onto a TV show and talks about Nefarious' manifesto. He admits he was possessed and tried to fire the gun 3 times. When they tested the gun, it worked normally. As an atheist, he now believes in Nefarious. He encounters a homeless person outside.
Hello, James.
Miss me?